The Sendyne Hospitality Cloud is an integrated technology platform driving marketing and sales performance in more than 30,000 hotels around the globe. The award-winning CRM suite integrates with hundreds of technology platforms to capture intent, preferences, past behavior, and satisfaction for every guest. Learn more at sendyne.com. That's CENDYN.com.
Welcome to the Hotel Tech Podcast. This is the show where we tackle your most pressing issues to bring your business more wins. Keeping up with technology is challenging. Our experts are here to help you figure it all out. Here's your hosts, Glenn Houseman and Estella Hale.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Hotel Tech Podcast. With me, your host, Glenn Houseman, and our wonderful, incredible co-host, Estella Hale, who's the Chief Product Evangelist with SHR, which is, of course, Scepter Hospitality Resources, and she is one of the top technology people, forget in our industry, in the entire known universe. Estella, how are you today?
Well, I do not know how to respond to that, but I am doing great. And just...
Go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to totally, disrupt this conversation before we even get it started.
I think we have a much much brighter mind than mine today in the show.
And speaking about brighter minds, we're getting very close to potentially having artificial minds be more intelligent than us normal human folks. So today we're going to be really talking about artificial intelligence. So it's going to be really fascinating. We've been following all of this, and as we like to joke around over here, we're going to keep talking about it until Skynet completely takes over. And to bring us through this, we've got an incredible educator who has mastered the whole notion of artificial intelligence in the hospitality realm, and this Mr. Roberto Battiti of the University of Trento. How are you, sir?
Okay, I'm pleased to be here. Yeah.
Welcome aboard. I think now you are organizing research initiatives all about learning and intelligent optimization and reactive search optimization heuristics. That sounds to me like a whole lot of fancy talk for artificial intelligence and being able to make smarter decisions in order to increase your rates or at least connectivity to guests in the hospitality industry. Am I right with the layman's terms?
This is the objective. Yes.
Excellent. So let's get us kicked off by let's just start at the very basic point. Maybe we could go through real quick. What is the state of artificial intelligence in, globally, and then what are we looking at here specifically in the hospitality universe?
Well, I think I have at least 10 hours for...
Well, we've got 26 minutes left, so you better hurry.
Okay, anyway, I will make it very, very short. So the story in artificial intelligence started actually 50, 60 years ago. And of course, the initial effort was to try and imitate the human intelligence, and in particular, what you may call symbolic intelligence. Okay, so based on rules, based on something which people can understand with language. So you have an example like, I don't know, if my customer is coming from Italy, he will like spaghetti. Okay, this kind of rules that people can understand. This was
sounds pretty stereotypical right there, that you're all in for spaghetti.
Yeah, of course. Also, we like Canadian, which is typical from this area because we are in the north of Italy, so very close to the boundary with Austria and Germany. So we are not the typical Italian, but just to make things simple. So the initial effort was to try and formalize knowledge as rules which people can understand. Okay, if this, then that. So I don't know. Probably you are senior enough to remember expert systems, in the 70s, in the 80s. No? So the idea was that you went to a business, imagine an hotel, and you had an expert interviewing the hotel manager, asking what are the rules by which you manage your hotel. So there was this part of extracting knowledge from the people working in an area. So this was the beginning, if you want, of artificial intelligence in the symbolic sense. Then there was a period where, well, if you think about it, we human people do certain things very, very simply, like, for example, driving a bicycle, okay? It's very easy for us. We learn it typically in a couple of days. And it is very easy. You may fall once, twice, probably not more than 3 times, and then you will start driving your bicycle. But if I ask you, please tell me what are the rules by which you're driving your bicycle, no? And you have to come up with a list, like if the rotation angle is 30 degrees and I'm going at a certain speed, then I want to apply a force of a certain number of Newton. This is not what we human people can do. But on the other hand, we are very good at driving a bicycle. And another example, we are very good at reading. But if I ask you, what are the rules by which you understand the different characters, no? That an A is an A, is a B, and a B. Okay. So to make it very short, in the middle of the 80s, there was a new trend in artificial intelligence, which was under the names of artificial neural networks, or if you want, sub-symbolic neural networks. And the idea is that you can develop intelligent systems by starting from the data only, okay? This is a dramatic change. So you don't need necessarily to extract knowledge. You just can start from the data and then build intelligent systems, okay? So this was the second trend of artificial intelligence, where the intelligence is in the data, is in numerical values of your system, so not so much in symbolic rules. So I'm making the story very short. Of course, the 2 directions, so the symbolic one, rules, and the artificial neural networks one, can be combined. In general, if you have a complex system like hotels, you can combine both symbolic rules and sub-symbolic machine learning directly from the data in order to build more flexible systems. Okay, so of course, this technology is actually changing the world, as you know very well. No? The biggest companies like Google, like Facebook, what they're doing is collect data. This is why they give you services for free, because they get your data. They use data in order to build models. And again, these kind of models are not explicit, but they can be used in order to make more money, because then they use the model in order to decide what are your interests and what is the probability that you will click a specific ad that is shown to you. Okay, so this is changing the world in so many companies. And of course, including the hospitality sector. So now you can start really connecting more and more data, and the time is very good to collect data, because you can collect data from your website, your hotel. You can collect data from reservation systems like Booking.com or similar. You can connect these to reviews by the customers, to data from marketing. So collect data and start building models. And you can do it with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, this is a very short introduction, but please ask me questions.
Estella, I'll let you take over in just a second, but I did want to say it's kind of like, in order to put this into terms that like I could understand, who's not a tech mind, it sounds like all of this kind of, it's kind of like you've discovered a map that will take you to buried treasure that you didn't realize existed.
Okay, yes, this is an opportunity to discover things that you didn't know before. and without having a teacher. So just looking at the data and building models in an automated manner. So automation is a big word, of course.
Yes.
This is what is changing industries. And a lot of this can happen by automation, by having massive computation going on in background and delivering knowledge which can be used to improve the business.
And Roberto, what we're also seeing a mindset change, if you will, on how data science is being adopted, how people in our industry are seeing the ability to maximize the value of the data that they have and the information that they have to make better decisions. We have just incredible minds on the revenue managers today that through reports that have been there for many years, they have done their best but struggled to make good decisions with that amount of data. And now when you start throwing in, like you said, behavioral data from what they're gathering from their digital marketing efforts, then there's only so much that we as humans can process. There's going to be a limited amount of information at any given time that we can process. So I think that what you mentioned of having these models that can then act on interest, on probabilities, on behavior is really, I almost see the mindset of it. I see a similarity to how symbolic and non-symbolic are now working together. And it is that human mind with data science working together to create these models.
Absolutely. This is so important because human people are limited. Now, in particular, they are limited when they deal with numbers. We people are very bad at dealing with numbers. Most people don't like mathematics, and even if they do like mathematics, how many operations can they do in a second? Not many, no? Computers can be so fast.
And also sometimes the data is both, they receive it in a structured format, maybe in a report, and an unstructured format, maybe in analytics or something. And so it's just hard for anyone to come up with a model to utilize both. And that is where I think the openness to data science and to applying machine learning models is just growing overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Integrating data coming from different sources is the key in order to improve your profit. Let me make a simple example now in revenue management. Of course, the issue is what is the proper price for my customers for this period, for this day of the week, for this situation, so on and so forth. So, of course, you can try to come up with rules, but again, this is difficult. This is not very flexible. Another thing that you can do very simply is to experiment. Okay, for example, you have your booking engine of your hotel. You can experiment by increasing prices by 5% or decreasing by 5% and measuring how your customers are responding. Okay, because of course, if you decrease price and the number of additional customers is not what is required in order to make more money, you shouldn't do it. You should keep your prices at the previous level. And again, how can you detect what is the optimal price? The answer of machine learning, artificial intelligence, is experiment. So collect data, but also collect data in some cases by experimenting, meaning that you want to collect the data which is appropriate in order to discover how your customers are responding. For example, responding to prices or responding to offers or responding to different days of the week. And then after you build the model by analyzing the data, now you have the optimal price, not the generic optimal price for hotels in your country or in your area, but for your hotel, not considering your customers, considering your target. Okay, because in many cases, revenue management is done in a way which is not the correct way. And I mean, the wrong way is to find the average of the prices in your area of similar hotels, and then guess what? Put your price $10 below. Okay, this is very simple. This will work in the very short term, but guess what? The other hotels will respond by lowering their prices. Okay, so you start this battle, and if you're not careful, you will drive prices down and down and down until your profit will become zero. So this is the wrong way to do revenue management. The correct way is to find what is the best situation or the best pricing for your hotel, for your customers, for your situation. Okay, so data from other hotels can be used, but they are not the main source of information. The main source of information is how are your customers responding to your offers. Okay, so if you can mine this data in addition to what you have, you can improve. And by the way, you can continue this process. So you may start from some rules about the current way of working, but then week after week, month after month, you can collect more and more data, and you can use this data in order to continue improving. This is what computers do very well because they work 24 hours a day. They can work in parallel. This is what is very hard for human people to do. So this is the context, more or less.
Right. So it's almost like this whole idea of artificial intelligence is so we can strap a bigger brain to our brains to go ahead and see that there are opportunities out there that we might not have been able to see or observe because we just mathematically can't process that much information to reveal those opportunities ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. So an example is, for example, events. When you're deciding prices, of course, if you know that an event is occurring, that there is a big conference in your area, of course, you can increase prices. But what can you do with data mining, with data science, is discovering hidden opportunities even without knowing what is going on. For example, I had a friend who had a big increase in reservations, and he didn't know what was going on. And he discovered there was a big marriage going on in this area. So they had so many people invited that they occupied all hotels. These typically you don't know explicitly, but you can discover immediately by looking at the data, by discovering that there are some signals that some days are hot. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't know why, but you can respond even if you don't know why. So even if symbolically, you cannot come up with an explanation, but you can at the same time react immediately and increase prices because you see these signals telling you that something is going on. Okay, so again, not necessarily you have to have an explicit explanation of what is going on. You can react immediately, and then maybe somebody will tell you there has been a marriage there, okay? But you don't care. What you care is to analyze data and see that something is happening and discover this very early on.
And I agree, Roberto, because that in that example, there must have been many more availability requests that are being made for that property that of course, the human mind of the revenue manager cannot calculate those because it's not processing them as data. But I think another thing that happens also is that as we build our strategy and have success with a particular strategy, I think our human nature tends to think that strategy will work again. And when you're making decisions based on data, it's just the new data that will tell us if the same strategy will work again or not. And we might have this false sense of confidence that, no, this has worked before. I've
Mhm.
accepted a group of 100 rooms before, and my occupancy and ADR went higher. Where the next time that happens in your forecast, maybe you had that you were going to have higher occupancy, so accepting that group might actually decrease the total
Absolutely.
ADR.
Absolutely.
Again, we're human. If a strategy worked, we tend to think it will work again.
Yeah.
This
Hey,
is
speak for
this is a
yourself,
very
Estella.
this is a very good point because human people are very human, so they have habits and they need to change their mindset. Okay, because the fact that they will accept suggestions for setting prices, which is different from what they did before, is of course difficult to accept. This is why there is a need also for consultants to go and work in hotels, to make people aware of the possibilities of the vision, because it's not simple. Because I know many people who are at the beginning, when they could see these opportunities, were not so ready to accept, because say, no, why should I increase price in that period? I know that the period is a very low occupancy. And then at the end, you discover, for example, this fact that I was mentioning, that there was a big marriage going on. But again, if you're not prepared to accept what you don't know, it is difficult. It is difficult. So it's a process which, of course, can be done at a gradual pace. So you don't need to tell hotel owners, forget everything about what you did in the past and embrace this new religion of artificial intelligence. This is crazy. Of course, you can combine what you did the past to the new opportunities. You can do it gradually, week after week, month after month. And what is very, very important is that you can immediately measure the effects. And this is very important. You know that there is the way of saying that hope is not a plan. Okay, here you start your hopes, but then you measure. If you try a little change in the prices and the result is negative, you immediately can change what you're doing. And again, you can do it 24 hours a day. You can do it during the night, during the day. Each time there is a new signal from the system, it can be a reservation, it can be a request, it can be somebody visiting your website, it can be somebody mentioning your hotel in some social network. Immediately, your system can take that into account and again make small changes, which in time will increase your profit. So again, there is no miracle here because we are dealing with small changes, but accumulating in time. So what we see in hotels is that they start. Of course, it takes some weeks and some months before accumulating a sufficient amount of data. But then gradually, they can improve. Again, no miracle, but everything is measured. And, you get this 2%, 3%, 5%, depending on your starting point. But this is continually improving, okay? So by definition, if you are serious about measuring, you cannot do worse than you're doing. You can only do better. Of course, how much better depends on your starting situation, depends on the level of instrumentation, so how much data you're getting, the quality of the data, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And I think also the hotelier brings the knowledge of that guest. So, as you mentioned, Roberto, if we have hoteliers that have the mindset of openness to data science to help them reach better decisions, to going from just structuring and analyzing the data today to the foresight that they can have from this data tomorrow, because they know their guests, because they know their hotel, then they can turn back to us, the hotelier technologists, those of us that invent technology for hotels, and say, okay, I need the end point for my user, let's say the booking engine, to respond to market conditions, to respond to a guest profile, to react in real time where decisions are made. So I think that combination of knowing their guest, their market, and how to serve based on the recommendations of the openness of that data science mindset is definitely going to be a huge disruption, and it's starting already.
Absolutely. My comment is that hotel owners and managers have to play a very active role here. So they don't need to be passive and just, trusting the data and machine learning. They need to be very active, because what machine learning cannot do is to give you objectives. You owner, you manager have to define the objectives of your hotel. Now, which kind of hotel are you managing? Which kind of experience do you want to offer? This cannot be done by machine learning. So hotel managers need to be very active in designing what they want. After you set up your objectives, then you can start the automation part. So how can you change the current way of operating in order to improve your objectives? This can be done automatically, but the objectives cannot be done automatically. So again, hotel owners and managers has to be more active. So using machine learning, using artificial intelligence doesn't mean that the managers become passive and just wait for suggestions, okay? They need to be very active. They need to define strategies. Then, after defining the strategy, you can set up an automation process, which is helping you to reach your goals, to improve the profitability. This is what has to be explained very clearly, that again, there is no miracle in machine learning. They are like, very powerful slaves, which need to work according to your objectives. And again, this responsibility cannot be delegated to machine learning. So there is a huge role that human people need to play. Again, in defining the vision, the objectives, and not so much in the implementation of the objectives. So what can be automated is the implementation, not the goals. Right. This is very important because, again, there's no miracle in machine learning.
So, Roberto, to just kind of wrap this up in a nice little bow, what would you say to people that are anxious about getting involved in artificial intelligence optimization to improve their businesses with the machine learning background behind it? Because some people are nervous about it. I'm getting the feeling that we're at the point now, if you're not getting involved, you're going to continue to be further behind your competitors. Is that true? And what advice would you give to folks?
Yes, of course, you need to be aware of the possibilities. Also, you need to distinguish the smoke from the meat, because like in all areas, you need to be careful because there are people selling smoke and not so much meat.
Right.
So you need to be serious, meaning that point number one is have good quality data. That is 90% of the work. Okay, so you need to set up a system where systematically you will start collecting in an organized manner all the relevant data which you have. Okay, so about the reservations, about cancellations, about intermediaries like Booking.com or similar, about social networks. Okay, this requires a lot of effort.
Right. So
then again, set up your goals, and then from the data and from the goals, you can start automating. So having processes which will guide your hotel to progressively change, measuring the response from your customer in order to work better and better. Okay, so it's a long process. It's not something which can happen in a day or in a week. It's something which requires typically 3-6 months not to really get going in this process. And typically you will get the first measurable results in about 1 year. This is the typical, time frame which is required.
Right. So if
But
you
again,
so just make
I want to
sure.
make.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Roberto, go on.
No, I mean, a funny comment is that this is a beautiful period for people with top quality hotels. Because, of course, with this process, you can really launch your hotel in a direction which will be different from the average hotel. Okay, so if you have this mindset that your hotel has something different to offer from the average hotel in your area, now it's a beautiful period because imagine, 50 or even 30 years ago, it was so difficult to have your hotel known to many people and to have, word of mouth spreading. Now it can be so fast if you work in the proper way that there is no excuse. So if you have a good quality hotel, I think there is no better period than now. Of course, if your hotel is not good quality, too bad for you, but of course we want to work with the hotels, aiming high. Yeah.
Excellent. So great advice coming from you, especially the make sure that the smoke is directly connected to the meat. So great for investigating in artificial intelligence, as well as hunting out a great barbecue joint. So I like the double set of advice on that. Estella, how about some final thoughts from you, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yes, thank you so much, Roberto. I completely agree with you. Yes, it is a very exciting time. I think we have seen, again, great minds still struggle with the number of reports, the consolidation of data, and just trying
Absolutely.
to make the best decision in this complex environment. I think we got a little bit of inroad when we started seeing some of the maybe messaging, maybe a little bit of better reporting, a little bit of better business intelligence. But what we are going to see coming with data science, with learning and intelligent optimization, is going to just be something that will be revolutionary for those great minds that today are doing their best trying to make good decisions. But again, the data is just too much, too unstructured, and very difficult to have the foresight that they want to have without having data science on their side.
Absolutely. It's a difficult process, but if you do it seriously, of course, you will have an edge with respect to the competition. You will work in a better way. You will be more relaxed and therefore also offer a better quality to your customers. This is very important because I know so many people in hotels who work a lot, 24 hours a day, but they cannot pay the required attention to the guests because they're so taken up by daily stuff like analyzing data. Again, my advice is focus on your objectives, focus on your vision, and have more and more computers doing the daily boring work for you because your mind has to be used for setting goals, not for doing, boring daily operations like analyzing tons and tons of data. We have computers for that. This is my final advice. Okay.
Excellent. Well, that was really terrific information. I hope that each and every one of you out there are encouraged to think about artificial intelligence combined with machine learning in order to improve your business, increase profitability, get people more engaged, get folks that are already staying at your property to spend more money. But remember, you need to set the goals yourself and then let the machines to do the work for you. So,
absolutely,
great stuff. And Estella, I think this is great. We're going to be at High Tech next month. I think that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So I hope that everybody who's listening to the show comes out and checks us out there.
Yes, very exciting. Looking forward to seeing everyone.
Yes, and I want to thank. Yeah, and Roberto, thank you so much for being here. I hope
It's been a pleasure.
I hope that maybe when you we get together and we can enjoy. Now that I know that you like spaghetti, we'll go have some of that together.
Absolutely, we will have fun.
Yeah, awesome. And you can find this show recording and all past shows, of course, on SHR's website, which is, of course, shr.global, and on novacancynews.com, and on our No Vacancy feed of shows. You can find the No Vacancy podcast feed on iTunes. You can find it on Google Play, Stitcher, and wherever else podcasts are found. And of course, you can just subscribe to our weekly newsletter by texting the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. So for Roberto, Estella, and myself, Glenn, thanks for listening to the Hotel Tech Podcast, and we'll be back next time. That is, unless artificial intelligence takes over and does the show for us. See you then.